Good afternoon. My name is Mike Trimberger. I'm the superintendent or district administrator of the school district of Random Lake. Been here 3 years. In the 3 years, couple of things about Random Lake. We're a district of about 750 students. We have a free or reduced population of around 35%. Overall, all of our schools exceed expectations, and kind of excited about some of the things that we're doing in year 3 as we get ready to go into year 4. So I think early on in my leadership, I wasn't as grounded by my vision, mission, and values as I am now later on. And one of the things that I find are really important is, as a leader, grounding all my decisions in what is our district vision, what are our building missions, and what are the values in our organization. So one of the ways that we have used to try to ground ourselves in our decision making is this chart. So our vision is providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage. Our mission, which is how we get to our vision, is, and if I were to read it, is an innovative learning community committed to fostering leaders in a safe, supportive, collaborative culture through personalized opportunities delivered in progressive, student-centered classrooms. And what we value are strong classrooms, strong school culture, and strong community connections. And we refer to all of this as the RL Advantage, or the Random Lake Advantage. And part of the advantage is providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage, and we tell them we do that through strong classrooms, strong culture, strong community connections, and these core values are really how we operate all of our goal setting, how we operate our school improvement plan. Year 1, as a leader, when I got to Random Lake, what we did is I did a lot of listening. I listened to staff, I listened to our school board, I listened to our community, I listened to our parents, to our students. And at the end of year 1, that's where we created the vision statement of providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage. Next, the vision is where we want to go. It's kind of our North Star. So the mission statement is the next piece, and our mission statement was created by a group of individuals called our district leadership team, and that group were our teachers, our administrators, support staff. Sometimes we have students and some other, and what I task them with is, if we say we're providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage, how are we going to do it? And that group came up with where our mission statement is, and then from there we pulled out our core values, which were about learning, were about culture, and about strong community connections. So things like this, we have this on a piece of paper. I can tell you every district has a mission, every district has a vision, and it has to be more than just on your website on a piece of paper. It has to be shared. And that's why for our district, we brought different groups in, and I've seen this done poorly and I've seen this done very well. Poorly, you have one group of people figure out what your vision, mission, and values are, and then nobody else had any say in it. We did that very differently in Random Lake. We asked our school board to give us our vision because they're the ones that set our policy, they're the ones that are our North Star. But then we asked our schools, how are we going to get to that vision? And those are the things we need to do to make sure that it is shared. If the school board tells us what our mission is, most of the staff, many of the students won't even have they won't have bought into it. So it needs to be shared, because if it's not shared, it's just words. And if it's just words, it's not really leading your organization. It's not the foundation of how you make your decisions. It's not going to do anything more than be an advertisement for your district. How do you foster school improvement? If I could give you the correct answer on that one, I'd probably be a millionaire because, as you'll see, there are hundreds of books on school improvement. What we've done in Random Lake is one way of it. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or otherwise, but I feel like public education and some other settings that I've been in before I got here didn't have a consistent message and didn't have a well thought out plan. Many times I always felt like school improvement was more of a shotgun approach than actually a laser focused strategic step towards what we want to do, and that's how we use our vision, mission, and values to actually work towards our school improvement. Our blade sharpener, what we use to always use as our north star, is providing our students with an advantage. So to get to that advantage, we know we have to have personalized learning. We know that it has to be supportive. We have to have a collaborative culture. We know those things that we need to do. And what we decided to do, instead of trying to do 100 things at once, we take one of our values each year and make that our goal. So last year was strong classrooms. The research will show the most important individual in a student's life is the teacher. The most important individual in a school's success is the principal. So if you can have strong classrooms, the best way to do it is to create professional learning communities, creating guaranteed viable curriculum, talking about what your essential learnings are, finding ways to provide interventions. So in year one, we had 100% of our focus on strong classrooms and PLCs. Now that we're in year two of our school improvement plan, we're talking about school culture. I'm a huge proponent for PBIS, but any kind of behavior program that helps teach positive behaviors, has consistent consequences, both positive and negative, and finds ways to put interventions in for students that are struggling with behaviors, are something that needs to be a universal piece that I think for students. And then the last piece that I feel is important of our three values is community connections. The school needs to be a hub of the community. For too long, I think public schools have tried to isolate themselves, and this is one way we've tried to become a value to our community. It helps us with the resources in our school. It helps us with curriculum building. It also helps the community with all the great activities that are happening. So as I look at it, school improvement, they should be focused around fewer amount of goals, and our goals have to do with our school classrooms, our culture, and our community connections. I believe that schools have been using data for many years, but not always using data correctly. One of my favorite lines are data rich, information poor. There's a lot of data out there, but how are you using data? One of the things that we've gone to now in year three here in Random Lake is we have a system called Wise-Local. We have data all over the place. I can tell you what our students get for ACT scores. I can tell you what they get in forward scores. We do things like exact path, but none of that data is in one place. So we've decided to put all that data in one place. And there's two systems that I think are probably the best out there. One is EduClimber and the other one is Wise-Local. And what these systems do are pull in for an individual student every one of the different assessments. We're hoping to actually get down to the formative level in year 5, 6, and 7. But right now, if we can pull up a student and see every assessment that student's ever had and be able to chart, look at growth, those are things that we haven't had historically. And in every one of the settings I've been in, it's done a little bit different. But as you use data, as you get good data, that being information rich or data rich, information poor, we can start actually getting more information by bringing pools of data into one subset and making decisions from there. By walking into a classroom, that should be your ultimate assessment of your curriculum and instruction. I've worked in plenty of districts that had grade scope and sequences that had really, intricate assessment data and what would be used. But you could look at those binders that were on the shelf and walk into a classroom and not know that those things were anywhere in the learning of the students. So as I look at it, I think educator effectiveness did a really good job of putting this universal expectation out there. Is it really, the curriculum instruction matters on how it's impacting students. So anytime I walk into a classroom, I care what the teacher's doing, but more importantly, I care what the students are doing. We're at a place where I want to see their brains a-humming. I want to see students working in groups. Not, 20 years ago, it was about students, they're gaining information from the teacher. Now we want to see how the instructor is facilitating learning and making students be really their own, they're navigating their own learning and what those outcomes should be. So as I look at curriculum instruction, it's what are students doing and how are the teachers facilitating that. And then the other piece in really that scope of collective efficacy and collaboration, if I'm going to go into a second grade classroom, I like going into 2 second grade classrooms because as we talk about guaranteed viable curriculum, that what's taught in one second grade class should be taught in the other second grade class. I want to see how comparable. A student's learning outcomes should not be dependent on the teacher. It should be dependent on the curriculum instruction. So if I'm going to go check out second grade, I'm going to check out all of second grade during language arts to see are the learning objectives similar, if not the same on the board? Are the activities somewhat similar? And what are those formative and summative assessments? So as we look at it, those are some of the things that I feel are most important. But when it gets down to it, is how is it impacting students? What is, it gets back to the data, what are we doing as pre-test or post-test exit exams to see if students have learned what our objectives were? And then the last piece are how congruent are teachers working together, that when we say we want students to learn something, that they're actually learning it.